Drank a lot of Lipton tonight, I know. She can drive your car and you can roll. Take Spency where he wants to go. What up, my dudes? What's the best Supercross game? And I ain't talking about MX versus ATV's worst game. I'm not talking about some Supercross 2000, all right? We're just talking about the Milestone official Supercross games here. It's a very interesting time to be making a video like this. I saw some other dudes making some videos. I thought, you know what? We got to come back in here and take a look, because it's been a little while, and it's interesting when you go back and you play them all now, okay? So let's just get this out there. Supercross 1, 2, and 3 are the original trilogy, and everything that came out after that, I just feel like wasn't really the same. Like, especially Supercross 4 and 6. Oh my God. Oh my Pastrana, bro. Those are some of the worst AAA for their time dirt bike games you will ever buy or play. Don't buy them, please don't buy them. All right. Supercross 5 was a little different, but it was kind of sandwiched in between those. So basically it comes down to the original official Supercross games, Supercross 2 and Supercross 3, okay? And when you start talking about which one's the best one of those three, I feel like that all really just comes down to how casual of a motocross gamer are you? You know, are you one of those kind of moto gamers that you just want to hop in there real quick and get around a Supercross track and hit all the obstacles pretty easily? You know, the bike just naturally gets through the whoops. It naturally goes around the corners without sliding out. You know, that's what it really all comes down to. The more and the more casual of a motocross gamer you are, the more you're gonna like the first Supercross game, and the more like hardcore gameplay, physics-based, skill gap kind of motocross gamer you are, the more you're gonna lean towards Supercross 3 being the best. And Supercross 2 is somewhere in between those two things. But, Spencer Boy hitting you with that, but I do certainly feel like there was some kind of a special charm that the original Supercross game had to it, like graphically, and the menus and the main menu screen and all that on the original Supercross game. There's definitely something to that that's not really based off of the gameplay. It's just sort of the overall vibe of the game, you could say. It certainly had something there with the original Supercross game that I feel like just slowly faded away once you got further down the line of the Supercross games, okay? For instance, like graphically, they just get darker and darker as you go from Supercross 1 to Supercross 2 and then to Supercross 3. By the time you get to Supercross 3, it's so dark and grungy graphically that it definitely gives it an entirely different feel than the original Supercross game did. So basically, like, the best sort of Milestone Supercross game, if you could just imagine it, right, it would be like a combination of the physics of the second and third Supercross game, but it also had a combination of the graphics of the first and second Supercross game. If you could imagine that in your head, like the gameplay was like a combo of Supercross 2 and 3, but then all of the visuals and the menus and everything like that was a combo of Supercross 1 and 2, that would have been like perfect case scenario. That would have been like the best of all the worlds right there. You see what I'm saying? But I know a lot of people talk about Supercross 2 being the best, and I feel like the reason why they do that is because it still kind of had some of that original visual charm of the very first Supercross game, but it wasn't as casual and as basic when it came to the actual gameplay and physics of it like the original Supercross game was. In the very first Supercross game, it is literally impossible to pop off of the bike. There's no jump that you can come up short on or over jump to any extent that will make you just actually pop off of the bike and crash in the very first Supercross game. And that to me is a deal breaker. That to me, and not just mentioning like it's that way all the way around in the very first Supercross game. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a graphical marvel. It looks amazing. I mean, it is, and it's really cool when you look back on it because I feel like it really fit the real life Supercross shit graphically and menus and all that kind of vibe. But like when you talk about just the gameplay aspect of it, it does not get any more casual and easy than that first Supercross game. It just doesn't, man. I mean, that is literally like the most a 2-year-old could get around a track in that game, bro. You can come up short on anything. It's like you don't even lose momentum when you mess up on a jump in the first Supercross game. That's how casual and arcadey the physics really are. You go over a whoop section in the first Supercross game, and it might as well be a perfectly flat, smooth straightaway. That is exactly what that game is. It's all visual. It's all in your head in a sense if you think the first Supercross game is just downright beyond the absolute best one, or you're just a very casual motocross gamer. The second Supercross game improves on a lot of those things by, giving you a little bit more of that actual physics system. It's not so casual. It's not so arcadey. Okay, so you get a little bit more of that momentum loss. You get a little bit more of that actual physical feeling to the gameplay. All right. And you get a little bit more like rhythm complexity in the second Supercross game. The tracks get a little bit more, challenging. There's certainly benefits to the gameplay going from the first to the second Supercross game. But if you're sitting there acting like there wasn't also glaring issues with the second Supercross game, you're fooling yourself, dog. You're tricking yourself. You're not fully understanding it, okay? It is still basically impossible to slide out in the second Supercross game, all right? It's got probably the worst whip system of any AAA dirt bike game that I have ever seen, and I'm not exaggerating, to the point where you're just not even really going to whip the bike in the second Supercross game. You're just not going to do it, bro. I mean, it's like you go to throw the whip animation in the second Supercross game by turning both your thumbsticks the opposite directions, and it's like the whip animation literally plays at about 1/4 of the speed that it should. It is so bad, dude. So, now, you get to Supercross 3, and this is where it gets interesting, because this is where you really first start getting introduced to a actual real whip system, an actual real physics system that is not just super duper casual mode, impossible to slide out, That's where Supercross 3 starts to introduce that actual somewhat of a challenging, risk versus reward gameplay system to it. Like if you come up short on a jump on Supercross 3, your momentum is going to get completely killed. You're going to have a a big risk to coming up short on things, so there's more of a timing element in the rhythm sections, there's more to the whoop sections, there's more to the physics system and the inertia of the bike all the way around on Supercross 3 that was just non-existent in the first two Supercross games, okay? Now, graphically, that's where it gets kind of weird in the third Supercross game, because like I say, they went super dark with it. They went very, very dark, and some can even say they went a little too far with the sliding mechanic in Supercross 3. It can kind of get a little bit crazy. Some can even say they went a little too far with the momentum loss system. That's why I make that argument of, if you could have had the combo between Supercross 2 and Supercross 3's gameplay and physics system, that would have been like the best case scenario. Do you see what I'm saying? There's a certain element of flow to the first and second Supercross game that sort of got lost in them trying to make the physics more realistic and difficult and skill gapped and all of that. You know, it certainly did lose a little bit of that charm and that flow that it had in the first two Supercross games, and that's why I think a lot of people, especially nowadays, they look back on the first and second Supercross games like, oh, those are the best, you know, oh, those are the... But when you really dig into them gameplay-wise, it's not that they're the best, it's that they're the most casual. They're the easiest to pick right back up if you haven't played them in a while and start feeling like you're smoothly jiving around the track the quickest. You know, it's going to feel like you're flowing around the track quicker than you would like in Supercross 3. If you go hop back in Supercross 3, you're going to start sliding out in the corners. It's going to be really hard to get your rhythm down on the jumps, you know. And that's a big element to any of this when you start talking about these dirt bike games, one of them being better or worse than the other. Well, a lot of you guys, it's like you get tricked up in the arcadey flow of the game, and you don't realize that it's like, it's tricking your mind into thinking that the gameplay is actually better, but the reality of it is it's just more casual, and it's easier for you to pick up and start getting around the track. And it never fails, you're gonna, like, at the short-term sense of it, you know, your brain is gonna automatically enjoy something that is easier, and you can start getting around the track faster, okay? It's all about, like, instant gratification versus harder at the start, but more of a long-term reward feeling to the gameplay, all right? That's the exact kind of argument that you're talking about when you're talking about comparing, like, Supercross 1 and 2 versus Supercross 3. Supercross 3 is going to require you to actually sit down and play the game more before you start getting in that full effect of the actual gameplay of it, because it has more depth. It's not the instant gratification thing. It's a little more, you got to work for it, you know. So that's really what it comes down to. When you start talking about which one's better between Supercross 1, 2, and 3, it's all in the how casual of a motocross gamer are you. The first Supercross game, you don't even lose momentum. The second Supercross game, at least you lose some momentum when you mess up. And then the third Supercross game, you might actually fully crash if you mess up on something. That is the exact scale of it. And when you're thinking about it, this is a Supercross game. They are trying to make Supercross games. I don't know if you've ever seen Supercross in real life, but when they come up short on a jump, it's not pretty, bro. They crash in Supercross. They wad their shit up in the whoops in Supercross. That is literally a part of what makes Supercross what it is, bros. So that's what I'm trying to say, in the sense of like, the first Supercross game visually captures everything when it comes to real life AMA Supercross. But when it comes to the actual gameplay and the crashing and the obstacles, you know, feeling of real life Supercross, the first Supercross game does not capture that at all. Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. It's all visual, bro. And then Supercross 2 captures some of that actual real life, you know, losing momentum when you mess up and shit. But it's really not until you get to Supercross 3, until you have any of that real Supercross physics elements to the game, bro.